Hey guys, this is Manish Sethi, your #1 digital nomad, coming at you today from New York, New York. And I'm here with a good friend of mine, James Swanwick.
Hey guys, how you doing? Hey Manish.
Hey James, James and I are really good friends. We go way back, almost 4 months, but we met in Medellin, Colombia, and now we're hanging out both in New York. And I wanted to talk to James a little bit about his story because he's a freaking interesting guy. James, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm James Swanwick. I live in New York City sometimes, in Medellin, Colombia the rest of the time. I've been a print journalist for the past 20 years, a television anchor on ESPN for the show SportsCenter for the past couple of years. I wrote a book called Insider Journalism Secrets and How to Become a Celebrity Journalist. And I spend my time, as I said, between New York and Medellin, Colombia. When I'm in Colombia, I work on various trade opportunities, not the white stuff that everyone jokes about. They will think that I'm trading illegal drugs. But no, like trading commodities between Colombia and, America and Asia.
So, which commodities? Is it cocaine?
No, it's not cocaine. Didn't we just talk about that? We just established that. No. Coal, coffee, chocolate, all kinds of things.
I don't know that.
How about that?
I'm already learning something new.
I'm an international man of mystery to you.
Mystery. So James is like a interesting figure because the first time I met him was a very different experience. I met him via an email in Medellin. I got an email from you. You were just like, "Hey, I see you're friends with these two people on Facebook. Do you want to meet up?" I thought you were one of my weirdo blog readers. Don't be a weirdo if you ever meet me, readers. And I go and I meet. I go to a cafe to meet up, and there's James, this Aussie guy. And you just sit down and you start talking and you start listening, which is very weird. Usually it's like...
I started listening?
Yeah, you started asking me about myself, which is weird because I'm used to my readers I'm used to these meetings often, like people talking about themselves all the time. And you did it very differently. And I was really impressed by your method of not really networking, but connecting, really. Mm-hmm. The way that I don't even think it was a system. I think it's just how you act.
Sure.
And so... Can you talk more about how you progress in these meetings when you meet people for the first time?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I love meeting new people and I love understanding their story, and I'm really interested in people, and that's a good skill to have first and foremost because you're going to build rapport with people because people's favorite subject is themselves. Mm-hmm. It's just human nature. So whenever I meet someone new or whether it's a business meeting or a social meeting, I just want to get to know the other person. So I ask questions about that person and I'm genuinely interested. What I find is that when I become genuinely interested in someone else, it makes them feel good and then they become genuinely interested in me later on. So when I met you, I saw that you were a friend of a mutual friend. And in the first 10 minutes of meeting you, I just wanted to dedicate that to trying to figure out who you were, what your passions were, and more importantly, how I could help you. Because one thing I've learned over the years is that when you help people, they in turn will help you back. So for many years, I was pretty insular, almost cocky, a bit arrogant, and I would go into meetings thinking, how can this person help me? And then I flipped it a few years ago and just started going, how can I help this person? And when I did that and I started helping that person, whether it was just through a connection with someone else or whether it was doing them a favor or something, what I found was that person in turn helped me. A lot of times I didn't even ask for the help, but they would just then introduce me to someone really interesting or cool, or maybe I got a great business opportunity over them introducing me to someone. And yeah, so when I met you, it was just I want to know about this person. I want to know how I can help this person.
Dedicate, you said you specifically dedicated 10 minutes to is that in your mind, for the first 10 minutes, I want to not talk about myself, or is it just that's how your modus operandi?
I mean, you were saying before, what's my strategy? Kind of, yeah. I'm thinking about that in my head. I'm thinking, I want to know about this person first, right? I don't want to hog the conversation. I don't want to dictate the conversation. I don't want to be going me. So I want to know about this person just for my own interest, and two, I just want to make sure that this person feels comfortable with me, so that we can, develop a relationship and build rapport, etc.
So James and I sit down at this cafe in Medellin, and for the first 10 minutes, I'm talking about me, and I always feel weird doing that, even though I'm pretty good at it. And so after 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, so what's up? What's up in your life? What are you doing, James? And he's like, oh yeah, well, I have this website coming out. It's called Celebrity or Insider Journalism Secrets. It's an ebook that I'm selling. And I was like, oh, okay, well, why don't you let me look it up. Let's see if I can help you a little bit with your stuff. He pulls it up, and there's just like a picture of James next to Cindy Crawford, a picture of James next to Joaquin Phoenix, a picture of James next to someone else who's really famous.
Kiefer Sutherland,
the
Bon Jovi.
Olsen twins.
Olsen twins.
And I'm like, wait, who the fuck are you? Who is this guy? And I started asking him what's going on, and it's like after 15 minutes that he brings up the fact that he's the host of ESPN Sports Center, which is like a big deal. To me, I was like, whoa, that's like crazy. So I thought that was really, really interesting. You like let that grow. You let that grow on its own, like you let it grow organically. And then when I saw this, I was like, wow, this guy's really interesting. He's fun to talk to. I had a great time this meeting. Let me help you. And like usually I try to cut these meetings short. I usually cut them like 30, 45 minutes. I think with you we hung out for 2 or 3 hours, maybe 4. And I was just like going through your site. We were going through it. You were telling me your trials and tribulations of that morning.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't talk about that.
and then we like went through your site and I gave you a ton of advice.
Yeah.
The kind of advice that like I rarely give out to people for hours for free. So I thought that was
Thank you.
Yeah, and it was
that was nice, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you bastard. and so anyway, that was really cool, and it was a really when I got home, I was thinking to myself like, what did James do? I was trying to reverse engineer because when I try to meet people that I'm interested in meeting, I wanted to figure out how to get people to act the same way that I had, not on purpose, acted towards you.
Mm-hmm.
But what really blew me away was the next day.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do the next day?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I enjoyed meeting you, and I wanted to stay in contact with you on a social level, and I wanted to, swap ideas on a business level as well. I just thought you were a cool guy, and I thought I'm going to make this guy my friend.
Lady is the host of ESPN Sports Center. That's a cool guy.
So what I do is when I meet people that I like, I follow up with them, and I do it as soon as possible, within 24 hours. So what I did was the next day, I sent you an email saying, hey Manish, it was great to meet you yesterday. How can I help you ongoing? Let's stay in touch. And then I sent you 3 or 4 books. So when I say books, every time I read a book that I like, I underline the best parts of it, and I type it out, and I PDF it, so you've got the best parts of a book that you can read in like 10 minutes. I have like 3 or 4 of those books all done in nice PDF form. I sent them to you because I thought you might appreciate them. For example, I sent you a book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, which is all about connecting to people and helping people, and in return they'll help you back. Winning with People by John C. Maxwell, which is a really cool book about, again, same kind of concept, social relationships, business relationships, romantic relationships, how to be better with people. And I can't remember what the other one was. Maybe it was part of the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I don't know, whatever it was. But I wanted to add value to your life without asking for anything in return. So yeah. It was just my way of saying, hey man, I enjoyed meeting you, and here's some cool resources that you may enjoy that might be able to help you on your journey.
So this is a really, really cool tactic that I've tried to use in the past couple months now, ever since James did it to me. It was like, just like to summarize really quickly what he did, I literally woke up in the morning and there was 6 emails from James. I'm like, what the fuck is this weirdo doing? And then the first email says 7 things we talked about and and my responses to them. And he listed out like he had, I don't know, taken notes or something what we were talking about,
yeah,
and written down his responses. And then he said at the bottom, also I found 5 books that I believe that you'd be interested in. So I'm attaching a summary of those books to help you get through your life. And I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And even if I didn't read all the books or read all the summaries, the fact that like they're there and this was something that he literally put time and thought into was super. Like, I think I forwarded that email out to like 10 or 15 of my friends. I was like, this is amazing. I've never seen this happen before. So that's a really good tactic that you can use. But the tactic is less important than the strategy. And the strategy being sit down and think about how you can add value to the person's life.
And take a genuine interest in the other person. Like I said before, for years I was very insular and kind of like pretty selfish. I was just thinking about what I can get from someone that I just meet. Mm-hmm. And when you flip that and you genuinely are interested in the other person and you genuinely want to help and you genuinely come up with ways to help them without expecting anything in return, what you find is that that person then wants to help you and will help you ongoing.
Yeah. James is good. He always calls me out when I try to talk to people and expect something in return. Yeah, he's good about it. So anyway,
Think of other people, Manish.
I know.
All the time. Think of me. What can you do for me today?
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for James Swanwick.
That's right.
So anyway, I think that a lot of my readers are super interested in networking and connecting and meeting the people that they want to meet.
Yeah.
Because it's an important concept, and one thing that I think that you understand very well is that the importance of other people. Like, other people are what build a business. Like, there's no business that exists in solitude. Everything, like even a writer has to network. You know, almost all of my readers I met through guest posts, and guest posts have come through me meeting people, connecting with them, helping them out, and them giving me an opportunity to write for their site. And in the same way, I think that that you have a lot to say about like connecting with people. You clearly know, from becoming a journalist, a celebrity journalist, that's not an easy job. That's a pretty desired job. You had to connect to people to get there,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So how did you become a celebrity journalist? Well, first of all, how old were you when you became a celebrity journalist, and then when did you stop?
Yeah. I was about 20, let's see, I was 27 when I started as a celebrity journalist. By celebrity journalist, we mean like I moved to Los Angeles and I created a career for myself whereby I was going to interview movie stars and musicians like Cindy Crawford, we mentioned before, and Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and John Bon Jovi and the Rolling Stones and all those kind of things.
You showed me his cell phone once, and I was like, these are some sweet phone numbers. Let's call him up. Let's call him.
But you know what I figured out really was like there are two groups of people in the world. There's you and everybody else. And without everybody else, it's a pretty lonely world, right? So you always got to think about that. So again, it was just like, how can I tap into my group of friends and the people that I know, my acquaintances, and ask them for help, and how can I help them in return? So look, I moved to LA from London, where I was living for 4 years in 2003, and I turned up there. I was living in a hostel for 90 days, working on a job site in Bel Air, building a house. My journalism career had gone kind of like downhill pretty quickly. But I was like, I basically started from scratch in the US, and it was like, how am I going to do this? And you know, I reached out to movie studios and I said to them, I want to become a celebrity journalist. How do I do it? And one of the movie studios, Sony Pictures, responded. The other ones didn't. 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, Paramount, DreamWorks, none of them responded. But all it took was one. And one of the executives from that movie studio, Sony, took time to meet with me, explained how the process worked, and then I systematically followed her advice. And then, 2 weeks later, I was interviewing Jack Nicholson in the Armitage Hotel in Beverly Hills, which was my first celebrity interview. And that was like 4 weeks after I arrived in Los Angeles. So, you said before, it just starts with like making that phone call, reaching out to someone, asking for advice, asking for help. I know we've spent the first part of this chat talking about how can you help others, but the other big lesson I know is that if you need help, just ask, just ask for help. And when you do that, if you say to yourself, the worst thing that can possibly happen if I ask for help is that person can say no, and you can be comfortable with that, that's the worst thing that can happen, right? Then it makes it so easy for you to go out there and ask for help and to make things happen. So that's just my strategy. That's the way that I've done everything.
This is interesting though. I always wonder about this because there are people who ask me for help, and then there are people who ask me for help, and there's people that I respond to and there's people I don't respond to, and I don't know the answer to what I'm about to ask. But it's like, what is it that makes me respond to some people's emails or makes me respond to some people's phone calls? And there's other people that I just don't. I mean, clearly you're charismatic, and there's something like when you hang out, you're like, oh, I want to help this guy. And there's other people who, when you sit down next to them, you're just like, I think I don't want to take advantage. I don't know what I'm doing here. And I don't know. Do you have any insights on that? Because there are a lot of times where people will email me, and I'm like, dude, you just asked me for no. Like,
are they asking you for something that you consider to be unrealistic? Like,
let's think about that actually. The questions you were asking was more like, how can I get started as a journalist? And what kind of answer do they give you?
This is how you do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Do you have any idea what step 1 was?
I had no idea what step 1 was.
Do you remember?
Oh yeah, sure. It was reach out, find a magazine that is willing to publish your work. So literally from there it was like, okay, I need to find 15 magazines. I need to contact the 15 magazines. I need to say, I'm going to be interviewing movie stars in Los Angeles, and hope that one of them says, okay, sure, we'll work with you.
And then you can say from there, you contact the celebrities or the agents or whatever, and you're just like, hi, I'm
exactly.
with this magazine. God, that's fucking brilliant. I'm already learning shit. That's great. I didn't even think of that. I never thought of that. Yeah, you already have the thing set up. Yeah, so that's great. So you didn't know that before.
I didn't know that.
No, I'm sure none of my readers knew that before. Now they have no reason to buy your book ever again. But so that was just simply asking for a little bit of information. Please give me 3 steps. I guess the one thing that turns me off is when people ask me to do something for them.
Mm-hmm.
If people ask me for genuine information that doesn't take me long to give them.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But people ask me like, give them a site review or like.
Oh, yeah, okay. So there's a big difference from asking for advice and another way of asking for something like that's actually going to take time. Now, I would never ask someone to do something for me if I hadn't already had that relationship with them. I already got to know them. I got no problems at all asking people for advice, okay? Because I know in my life, I need to ask people advice for me to, in order for me to progress. So if people ask me advice, no problems. I'm going to give you that advice.
Yeah.
If someone I don't know comes to me and says, "Can you write me a review on this thing?" I'm just going to say, I'm going to politely decline. I'm going to say, "Thank you very much for thinking of me to do this for you, but at this stage, it's just, I'm not going to do it. I need to know a little bit more about you first, etc." I don't just ignore them, because I figure it takes a fair bit of courage to ask anyone for anything. But certainly, if it's advice, I'll give it away, no problems at all. And if it's them asking me to do something that's quite time-consuming, I'll make a judgment based on what is my current relationship with them, how do I know them, etc.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome advice. I'm fucking learning a lot. So you got there, you got your celebrity, you got your first interview with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And then from there, you just self-propelled?
Yeah, well, so I did the interview with Jack Nicholson. It was for the movie Anger Management with Adam Sandler. You might remember it was about 2003. So I interviewed Jack Nicholson. It was a 20-minute interview. I got the story published in Loaded magazine in the UK. From when I did the interview to when it was published was like a 6-week gap. So I had to wait 6 weeks for it to be published in England. Then I had to get a friend to post it to me in Los Angeles. Then I went to a FedEx store, photocopied that article 12 times, and then I got the address of magazines in Australia and England. I put them in envelopes and I sent them off to these different magazines and said, "Hi, my name's James Swanwick. I'm based in Los Angeles. I interview movie stars. Here's my recent interview with Jack Nicholson in Loaded magazine. Please consider me for any other interview opportunities that may arise." I also sent that photocopied article to all of the movie studios that didn't take my initial call, which was Fox and Warner Brothers and Paramount and Universal, and said the same thing. "Hey, I'm James Swanwick, I'm a journalist here. If you've got movie stars to interview and you'd like me and you want to promote your movies in certain magazines, please consider me." So I did that. A couple of weeks after I did that, I got contacted by Universal Pictures, I think it was, and they invited me to interview Arnold Schwarzenegger for the movie Terminator 3, which at the time turned out to be his last film before he went on to become the Californian governor. So yeah, there I was. I'm pretty sure it was a Universal lot. I'm sitting next to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's like, "Oh, when I become governor of California, I'm going to do this." And I'm like, "Dude, I just want to talk to you about movies and explosions and what it was like to act and all that kind of stuff." And he's like, "No, the Republican Party." It's a really bad Arnold Schwarzenegger accent. I apologize. But
I thought it was perfect. You look kind of like him too.
Yeah. So anyway, I did that interview, and then that interview was printed, and then I photocopied that interview and did the same thing, just sent that out. And then before I knew it, I was getting invited to like a bunch of things. Like I think I got invited to do the interview for Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston for the movie Along Came Polly. I think that was like the third one I did. And then from there, a magazine contacted me and wanted me to go to the Playboy Mansion and write a first-person piece about the Playboy Mansion. So I went to the Playboy Mansion and I met Pamela Anderson, and Hugh Hefner, and Owen Wilson, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, the wrestler, and Ice-T, and Playmates. And I jumped in the grotto, and I got thrown out because I jumped in the grotto. And so I wrote a story about getting in and then being thrown out of the Playboy Mansion.
Wait, so how long is the timeline between you getting your first interview with Jack Nicholson and then you getting the second one with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh, that was probably about two months, maybe okay, like so it kind of 8 to 10 weeks, because I had to wait for that article to get published to then photocopy.
Oh, I'm sorry, from the posts. How long was it from then until you got the interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh, with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Oh, it was only like a couple of weeks, yeah.
And then from there, it kind of exploded really quickly.
Then it just went like this. It was like a tipping point, you know. It was like really slow for the first few months, and then all of a sudden it was like I started getting this traction because people were like, oh, okay, this guy looks legit. All right, he's had something published. Oh, he's interviewed Jack Nicholson. Oh, he's interviewed Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then just started to roll from there to the point where a year later, I was making 6 figures comfortably and only working 2, maybe 3 days a week. And those 2 or 3 days a week was one day, go to the movie and watch the movie. The next day, turn up and interview the star. And the next day, write the story and submit it. And that was it.
And this is all print, and this is not videos.
This was all print at this stage. But what happened was is that after I'd done the print for a year, the Sky Movie channel in UK contacted me and said, hey, can you interview our stars for our movie channel in the UK? And I went, sure. So I think the first TV interview I did was Angelina Jolie for the movie Taking Lives.
She hot in real life.
Absolutely smoking, Manish. In fact, I was really hungover that day, and I was wearing a really bad T-shirt with it was a Lee's jeans T-shirt, and it was of a dwarf spinning a lasso above his head. And I was just the first shirt I grabbed off my bedroom floor because I was late for this Angelina Jolie interview, and I would put it on, and I sat down, much like you and I sitting down like this, and I go, "Hi, Angelina, nice to meet you." She goes, "Oh, I love you. I love your shirt." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." She goes, "What brand is it?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." She goes, let me have a look. So she's like this. So her breasts are like in my face.
I just got turned on, by the way.
And she's trying to like see the brand name of this thing, and I'm like, this is just awesome. What a great gig I got here. Angelina Jolie's breasts are in my face. So anyway, I did that interview.
Check off that off the bench list.
You can actually see that video or part of that interview on my website, becomeacelebrityjournalist.com. If you go to that site, you'll see...
Is that part on the video?
That part is not on the video because that was just before filming. But you can see me interviewing her back in 2003 when I was a little bit skinnier. And
say that URL again?
Huh?
Becomeacelebrityjournalist.com.
If you go there, you can see that video, and you can see me interviewing Ben Affleck for the movie Jersey Girl that he did, I think, in that year or 2004, and William H. Macy for The Cooler, and Charlize Theron for the movie Monster, and you know. So anyway, it snowballed from there. I started doing TV interviews. Then I got invited to be a correspondent on an Australian radio show, so they would call me once a week. I'd be on air, going all across Australia for 5 minutes, talking about what was going on in Hollywood, and it just kind of like snowballed from there.
So I always take away two big points from this story that you've told me before, and that comes down to number one, the importance of snowballing, which is that people who get started on blogging or any other industry always get really, really dejected because things just don't seem to hit right away.
Yeah.
And like I feel like you're kind of in that situation right now with your blog,
yeah,
where like you're inside celebrity journalism. We talk about this a lot.
Yeah. We're
trying to grow it, and it's slow, but it's one of those things that will grow in the same way.
Yeah.
That it will grow when it starts to grow.
Yeah.
Just the same with like my blog was blank for years until I finally put in the right effort. I found that right tactic.
Yeah.
That made it explode. So one thing that I want to advise the readers is that you guys start thinking about, you know, pushing through that trough, that dip, that tough time, because that's the time that you need to break through before things become an success.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, and 3 months is what I found for most things in my life. Like the first 3 months, you don't get the traction that you hope that you think you're going to get, and then all of a sudden, it's around that 3 month mark. Things just start to happen, you know, and one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and it's just like, it's the snowball effect. It just happens. So you're mentioning my blog. I got a blog now at jamesswanwick.com, and you know, I only launched it like 6 weeks ago, and I'm frustrated because you know, I haven't quite got the traction that I had hoped. But then at the same time, I've got these unrealistic expectations because everybody who starts their own blog thinks everyone's going to come swimming towards my site in the first 6 weeks. He's going to knock it out of the park, and you know, as history will tell you, that rarely happens, and you need to just be patient and if you do the right things consistently enough, success will follow.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to say, which you just mentioned, was that snowballing takes a lot of time to grow. The second thing that I always get out of the story is your crazy ability to just take action. And that's something that I fail at often, and I feel like all of my readers fail at all the time, you guys. So why are we not taking action? And what really makes you take action. Like I remember, like I sent you like a list of ideas for your site, and the next day all of them were implemented. And I was like, the fuck? How did you possibly, like, when did you have time to do that? I sent him a couple books, and he's like, I read them all. And I want to know what makes you do that. Like,
Sure.
what makes you take action?
The main thing is just decide to take action. And by saying that, I mean really decide to take action. Because people will say, yep, I'll definitely do that. Yep, I'll get around to that. I'll do that tomorrow. Yep, I'll put that on my to-do list and I'll do that. For me, I just like, if I decide I'm going to do something, I really decide to do it. And then it's just like the Nike slogan, just do it. It's really, really that simple. So when you send me something, in my head, I just go, you know what? I'm just deciding to do this. So then it becomes all about setting aside a block of time where you eliminate the distractions and you say, my goal is to complete this task and I am going to just absolutely zone in and focus on it until completion. So when you sent me, what was it? You sent me like a few books to read. I really wanted to read those books because I knew they would help me. So I said, right, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I've got a few hours that I can dedicate to this. From 2 o'clock until 5 o'clock, I am just going to focus on this. I'm not going to focus on a few of those other things that I know I have to do. I'm just going to focus on these things. I'm not going to do an hour here, then go and do another hour on something else, and then come back to his thing. It's just, no, that's it. I'm reading Manisha's books, 3 hours, bang, go. So then I just did it, got it done. And when I did, when I did that, I learned a lot. I accomplished the goal, and bang, I did it. Another thing is like someone gave me another book to read, The Way of the Superior Man by David Data and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I had 2 flights to take recently, one from New York to LA. So I just went, you know what? I'm going to read The Power of Now on this flight.
That's it. Time set, and you're good to go.
I read it. The plane took off. By the time it landed, I'd done it. Same thing like 2 weeks later with The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. Same thing coming back the other way. I'm just going to read this book. Bang, done.
Done. I like, you talked about a Will Smith quote, right? What did he say?
Yeah, Will Smith, it's like when he decides to do something, it's already done. He just says, it's already done. You guys have just got to wait to see it.
Yeah.
It's done. So
the decision has been made, just wait to do it.
When he decides to do something, this is Will Smith, the Hollywood actor. I've interviewed him a couple times, and I would actually encourage you viewers to Google Will Smith inspirational quotes or Will Smith motivation.
Such an inspiration.
Because he is absolutely trained on being the most productive person that he can be. And there's a lot of great stuff on YouTube from him quoting like Zen masters and how he focuses on how he studies patterns in the universe and how he gets stuff done. But anyway, your initial question was, what does he say, in terms of taking action? He basically told me when I interviewed him a few years ago, it was like, as soon as he decides to do something, bang, it's already done, because he knows that he's going to be absolutely so focused that he's just going to do it. It's just that decision.
Yeah. So I talked about this a little bit in the Minimalist article that I wrote as a guest post today when we're filming it, and it's basically this post where I was trying to start my blog for several months, and could never get it done because I would alt tab over to Skype, alt tab over to whatever else, and then suddenly one day I found myself in a cave for 5 days, and just me in a notebook, and I always thought I had ADHD or something, but instead I found myself focusing on this for 8 hours straight, writing 8 hours of posts, and until this day, those posts are not just like the most quantity I've ever written in a short compressed amount of time, but they're also the best quality posts I've ever written. I feel it's because one of those things that like, we never focus on things for more than an hour anymore.
Yeah.
And it really takes an hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours before the flow comes, before the clip comes, before you start actually doing a good job. And I think you might agree with that.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, again, for me, it just goes back to the simple case of just do it. It's just simple as that. Make that decision. Yeah. And when you actually are doing the just do it part, eliminate the distractions.
So, guys who are watching this right now, what we're basically saying is that right now I know you have some task on your to-do list that you're not doing, and right now instead you're probably watching us talk, which is great. We're very interesting and I'm extremely attractive, so I understand. But it's important that you guys just fucking, after this video is over, just shut it down, turn off your internet. I swear to God, it makes a huge difference. Do you do that?
I mean, I don't do it enough, but I'll tell you, when I'm the most productive, it's on a plane. When there's no Wi-Fi on the plane, because guess what? I can't get on and check the sports scores. I can't check CNN.com. I can't check my email. There's no distractions. It's just There's my computer. I do like 100 emails and catch up on a whole lot of work on a 6-hour flight. It's the most productive that I ever am because I don't have someone calling me.
Catching on emails that you don't have internet access to, right?
Exactly.
Got it.
Emails that I don't have internet access to. There's no internet. There's no cell phone.
It's amazing the power of internet.
There's no television.
Yeah.
There's no nothing. There's no distraction. I am so productive in that time on a plane. It's unbelievable. So, internet is terrific because you've got the world at your fingertips, but it's also a killer for productivity because you've got the world at your fingertips.
Exactly. You can do anything, so you want to do everything.
Another cool thing that I like to always remind myself is a lot of people say, I'm going to try to do this or I'm going to try to do that. You know that movie Empire Strikes Back when Yoda is talking to Luke Skywalker?
Yeah.
And he goes, I want you to lift the plane out of the swamp, lift it up with your mind. And Luke Skywalker says to Yoda, all right, I'll try. And Yoda says, try? There is no try. Do or do not. And I say that to myself all the time. It's like you either do something or you don't do something. Just make the decision, do it or don't do it, but don't try.
Yeah.
There is no try.
I really, really like that. And one thing I wanted to mention about internet distractions is this funny little thing I've noticed about myself in the past couple weeks. I've been implementing a new plan where I do this daily morning routine. And my morning routine is very simple. I wake up in the morning and I set my Freedom app, which is an app that turns off your internet. I set that Freedom app for 30 minutes and you cannot reconnect to it no matter what. So I set this app to disconnect my internet, and then I'll drink 1 liter of water, and then I journal for 2 pages in this journal. And every time that takes about 20 minutes for me to finish my journal and drinking water, and I sit down and there's 10 minutes left of freedom. So I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I start working on something that's important to me. And 10 minutes later, the internet comes back. And I'm just like, all right, well, let me just check one email. And I hit that button, and suddenly it's 4 p.m., and I realized that I got more work done in that 10-minute period than I got done in the last 6 hours.
Amazing.
So it really, guys, like one day your life won't die. Your life won't change if you don't have internet for one day. Unplug your Wi-Fi router and see what happens. Just see what happens. It's really cool because you think you might be lost or scared, but you're going to find yourself doing really well. I want to talk to you a little bit about your ability your story about becoming an ESPN anchor is very interesting. I think it comes right back to this idea of taking action on potential activities. This story, when he told it to me, was super inspirational, and it's one of those things that's just like, it's such a, just go fucking grab it. If something's there, you need to take it. And so, tell me how you got your gig.
It's like we're quoting Will Smith again, that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, where he's talking to his son. He's going, don't let anyone tell you can't do anything. If you want something, go out there and grab it.
Yeah.
Will Smith, man. This should just be a Will Smith inspirational.
Where is he? Can you get him on the phone?
Yeah, let's get him. Will Smith, come out here. So yeah, the ESPN anchor story. Okay, cool. So I was I was a print journalist for many years, and a few years ago, I'd always dreamed of hosting my own television show or hosting a television show, but I never really got round to it. I had the print stuff kind of was distracting me and whatever. I started helping all these other people and putting positive energy into the world, and all this stuff came back to me. So one guy I helped connecting to someone. He then, out of the blue, about 3 years ago, contacts me and goes, hey James, I met this ESPN producer and they're looking for an international anchor for SportsCenter, and I thought you'd be really cool for it. I'm going to introduce you to the producer via email. And I went, great, terrific. So I was introduced to the producer and I went, hey, how you doing? And he said, hey, yeah, we're looking for an international anchor. Maybe we could meet sometime in the next couple of months. And I was living in LA at the time, and he was in Bristol, Connecticut, which is on the East Coast. Anyway, he said, oh yeah, I'm going to be in Las Vegas next week, but I'm not coming to LA. Maybe we'll meet in a couple of months. And I'm like, okay. Fast forward a few days. I knew he was in Las Vegas. I was in LA. I just said, you know what? This is too good of an opportunity to pass up on. I'm going to fly to Las Vegas. I'm going to meet this guy. I'm going to charm him and convince him enough to hire me, because this is too good an opportunity to pass up. I knew that if I waited 3 months, it'd be out of sight, out of mind. It just wouldn't happen. So anyway, it was a Monday. I knew he was in Vegas. I emailed him and said, hey, listen, why don't I come and have lunch with you in Las Vegas today? He said, oh, okay, if you want to come. I'm like, all right. So I literally got on a flight, JetBlue plane from Burbank to Las Vegas. I got a taxi out to the Hard Rock Cafe on Las Vegas Boulevard. I met him at 1 o'clock. We had lunch for an hour and a half. At the end of the hour and a half, he said, yeah, you'd be really cool. We'll get you in to do a screen test sometime in the next couple of months. There was no real kind of urgency about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I went, okay, cool, great to meet you. I flew back to LA. He went over back to Bristol, Connecticut on the East Coast. Now that could have been the end of the story. But I just, in my head, I'm like, this is too good an opportunity to pass up on. I need to get out there to ESPN at Bristol, Connecticut and do this screen test. And I need to strike now while I'm still in his mind. So I waited a few days, maybe a week, and I emailed him and I said, hey, I'm going to be in New York next week. Why don't I pop over to Bristol, Connecticut and do the screen test then? The truth is that I was never really going to be in New York City. It was like a bluff, I guess if you say. I figured that if he said, yeah, come and do the screen test, then I'd just fly to New York. So anyway, his response was, oh, okay, if you're going to be in New York next week, then sure, come and we'll do it. How about we'll lock you in for this date? And I went, great. So then I booked my flight, I flew over to New York, and then a week after that, I was doing the screen test in Bristol, Connecticut, and then literally I did a screen test for 2 days, and on the end of the second day, he said, terrific, I'm going to put you on the air in 10 days from now. And that was it.
That was it, and that's how James became a host for ESPN Sports Center.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll see from this interview, like James is one of my role models because of the way that he is, like, he manages to just juggle different ideas, decide what he wants to do, and then really decide what he wants to do, and then just take action. And you guys know from Hack the System, my entire goal is actionability and actually making my readers do something. So James, can you, as we sign off, I want you to talk to my readers and tell them what specific advice would you give someone who has a goal that they want to do, or who doesn't have a goal, which is the more common one? Let's start with that one. Somebody
if you don't have a goal, you don't know what you want to do?
Yeah, how do you find out what you want to do?
What I do, it's a great question, and it took me many years to figure out how to do it.
Many years.
Many years. I'm an old guy. Yeah, many years. I'm old, wise, and experienced. You know what? I was trying to figure out for years, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? But you know what? I could never figure it out. So what I did was I changed it. I wrote down what I did not want to do. I literally got a piece of paper and I put down the list on this side of a line down the middle, what do I not want to do? And I wrote down, I do not want to work for somebody else full time. I do not want to live in Los Angeles anymore. I do not want to, etc., 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 etc. And what I found is, when I looked at that list, when I wrote that down, it became a lot easier to figure out than what I did want, because all these ideas that I had, if it was any part of that list that I didn't want to do, then I just discarded it.
Yeah.
So if you had, like, say 50 ideas, well, I could do this, if it was part of this list on the left, like working full time, I would just dismiss it. And then all of a sudden you get down to like 5, 4, 3 ideas. And then you look at those 3 ideas, then it becomes really a lot easier to figure out what you do want to do from that list.
Got it.
Yeah. So I would just say, if you guys don't know what you want to do, write down what you don't want to do. And that includes lifestyle, how many hours you want to work a day, whether you want to work for someone or not, location, like what city you don't want to live in, what lifestyle you don't want to have. And when you do that, it becomes easier to figure out what you do want.
So you do that, you figure out what you want, and then what would so my readers have a goal, what's the first step they can do to achieve that goal?
I mean, like we were talking about 5 minutes ago, decide to do it. That's the first thing. Just decide to do it. What I like to do is I like to write it down, not type it down, but write it down with a pen on a piece of paper, like a goal, put a circle around that goal, and then I draw little branches out from that circle of people's names that I think can help me to get there, people that I can ask for advice. And then literally, once I do that, just to say I've got a goal here, right? And I put a little branch out and I write the word Manish, your name, and I circle that. I would then call you and say, hey man, this is my goal, this is what I want to do. Do you know how I can do that? And then you might suggest that I talk to 2 other people. So from your name in a circle, I draw 2 more little branches and put their names, I circle their names. And then I contact those 2 people and I say, hey, this is my goal, this is what I want to do, can you give me some advice? And they may suggest talking to someone else, or they may suggest doing a certain action. So then I'll draw another little branch from their names, put that in a circle, and so forth and so forth and so forth.
So you build this network and you use that network to meet people. James,
absolutely.
I want to thank you so much for spending time to hang out. I'm really sad he's leaving me. He's going to Medellin, to Bogota, Colombia tomorrow. And I'm glad that you were able to spend the time today and just do this interview right before you have to go. James,
sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I'm sure James will help you guys out too if you need it.
Yeah.
InsiderJournalismSecrets.com.
JamesSwanwick.com. JamesSwanwick.com. And just do it. Decide to do it and just do it.
Make the decision, guys. Have a good day. Take care.